Okay, guys, I think we're good to go. Just make sure we mention that the performance of the young Cyclops and Jean Grey.
Didn't they die at the end of X-Men 3?
Oh, we don't talk about that.
We don't mention that.
No.
We didn't do it before, it's fine.
Excellent. X-Men Apocalypse is the third installment of the rebooted X-Men franchise and is directed by Bryan Singer. It stars
James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Ty Sheridan, Sophie Turner, Rose Byrne, and Nicholas Hoult and Oscar Isaac. Thank you, Steph. So here today we're joined by Steph, a good friend of ours and co-worker. Now, Steph, you're our guest, so what did you think of the movie today?
I quite enjoyed it. There's a bit iffy here and there. It was a little bit confusing to get the story of these characters. Like Angel, for example, no idea who he is or where he came from. Or
lots of problems with the characters.
Yeah. Really, really liked the backstory of Magneto or Eric or Henrik
yeah.
Every single name possible. Really liked learning more about him. Personally, been my favourite character through thick and thin. So I really enjoyed his part in the movie. Can I rate it out of 10?
No, you don't have to.
I reckon overall I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I kind of land in the same pool. I think I really like the X-Men movies. They're some of my favourite superhero movies. I think it's probably my favourite superhero franchise, and especially the last two movies with Days of Future Past and First Class. I really like the direction they're going in.
Yeah, it's really hard to come after Days of Future Past with the success of it.
And look, I enjoyed this movie, but I do recognise it has a lot of flaws. Follow up on what Steph said, the characters in this movie are they're almost non-existent. I mean, you've got a lot of characters to balance here, but unfortunately, it seems like underwritten literally every single character in the entire movie. There are the four horsemen to the Apocalypse, who's the main villain in this film, an Egyptian god who wants to destroy the world, and they're completely cast aside. They have about 10 lines in total between the three of them.
Yeah.
And then obviously Magneto's got a bit more to it, but they're all underwritten. The action, I really enjoyed. Bryan Singer, this is his franchise, and he really knows how to build this kind of superhero set piece really well. But in the end, I didn't think Apocalypse was a particularly good villain.
No, he was horrible.
You got Oscar Isaac, who's one of the most charismatic and exciting young actors in Hollywood, and they kind of buried him in layers and layers of latex and blue makeup. And it's not a very good performance, not a very interesting character, not a very good plan. And so when it comes to that big climactic battle, it's very confusing and
very drawn out as well. To follow up on the character development, what really made First Class and Days of Future Past was the emotion had between the characters and within themselves. So when they push that aside to just fill it with copious amounts of action and CGI, it really pulled you away from the characters. And for the Four Horsemen again, we rarely got anything out of them. There's no dialogue for them, no real backstory. It really just
you don't understand why they want to side with Apocalypse other than the fact that he gives them
better powers or a tattooed face.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There's barely any need for the Horsemen.
And these are big characters in the X-Men universe. You've got Angel, Storm, Psylocke. These are big characters, and they're completely cast aside, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, Storm's that you can see that they try and make her very important by the close-ups, and it's she's still there kind of thing. But it's we know who she is from the start, but does she do anything else apart from sort of look there?
Honestly,
she just looks petrified the entire time. She looks very confused.
That's true.
She's introduced in maybe the movie's first 10 minutes. Yeah. I don't remember her doing anything until maybe the last 10 minutes of the movie. I honestly can't think of a scene where she actually does anything except for maybe show off her powers once or twice, and in the remaining 2.5 hours from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
She really is just completely cast aside.
There were way too many characters to have a good backstory for each of them.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing this movie suffers from altogether was just that I think this movie was too dependent on the story of X-Men First Class. I think it doesn't actually feel like a very suitable follow-up to Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Now, because this is supposed to be set 10 years after Days of Future Past, it feels like it's been set about 6 months after Days of Future Past.
No one's aged, no one looks different.
No one looks any different at all. There's a bit of a backstory of Magneto that clearly has taken 10 years to develop, but
can't really feel that.
This feels like it would have been a better movie had it come right after First Class. Days of Future Past is really fantastic, but I just think this doesn't really fit as a follow-up to Days of Future Past. So obviously returning in this movie, you've got the main trio of Jennifer Lawrence, James McAvoy, and Michael Fassbender. I thought, look, they're all fantastic actors, and I thought they did really well. Do you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, definitely with McAvoy and
Fassbender,
yeah.
I struggle with Lawrence.
Yeah, I think they're relying too heavily on their character.
Because Mystique isn't a big character.
No,
she's not as important a character. I think when they cast Jennifer Lawrence in X-Men First Class back in 2010 or 2011, she was almost a complete nobody. But she's become, obviously, I think you could say the biggest female star in Hollywood currently.
They want to get as much out of her, for how much they're paying.
But it never really works. It's never really convincing that her character is this really important seminal figure. Like all the young characters played quite well, I thought. By you've got young Cyclops played by Ty Sheridan. You've got young Nightcrawler played by Cody Smith-McPhee. I think they're all really good, but they look up to Mystique as this kind of hero because of something she did in Days of Future Past. But that was never conveyed properly. I was always very confused by that as to what specifically they were looking up to her for.
So, Steph, with Michael Fassbender back on the big screen with the X-Men, what did you think of his family man-esque take on the character?
Well, I liked how he used his powers in the beginning of the movie, like where it was you're still boss ass, you're still very, very strong, and like you needed a little thing to do something really big kind of thing. Whereas when Apocalypse gives him those big ass improvements kind of thing, you can see that he's very strong and he's doing so much with it, but then when it actually comes to using those powers, there's not a lot going on.
Yeah,
not really doing much.
I really love Michael Fassbender as an actor, and I really liked him as Magneto, but I didn't think he wasn't necessary in this movie at all. Especially towards the end, we're supposed to believe he's undergone this big transformation again.
Yeah.
But his entire role, especially in the last hour, doesn't really make any sense, and then something he does at the very end of the movie completely negates everything we've seen in this entire movie. They're really holding on to these relationships that they built up in Days of Future Past and First Class, but everything that's happened in them, you'd think that these relationships would be completely ruined and in tatters. And I never really understood why they were, especially Professor X and Mystique, were holding out on Magneto, and why they thought of him as such an important person when on 2 occasions now he's nearly brought about the end of the human race.
Yeah.
So it seemed a bit odd. He didn't need to be in this movie really. Like he didn't have any good motivations to be part of the Four Horsemen, nor did he have any motivations towards the end to do what he does without going into too much spoilers.
Also, I would like to mention that they did mix it up a bit. Finally, we're seeing mutants versus mutants. We're not getting a human element into the storyline of how...
There still was, though. There still was.
They do nothing. They sit in a room and whinge the entire time and sort of like, oh my god, like all these bombs are going off. We're just gonna watch.
They didn't even think it was the X-Men or any mutants doing it. So, on a visual level, the film was excellent. The CGI was great. Maybe a bit too much of it, but one thing that I really enjoyed of the film was the costuming of the characters. So we had, classics from the comics at the end which were featured.
Like Fox knows what they're doing visually. They understand what these characters, they understand what the characters are supposed to look like. But I feel like in this movie where the characters aren't there and the story isn't there at all, because like I mentioned before, Apocalypse's motivations or his plan is just completely preposterous, stupid. I think the character was terrible, and ultimately all this visual grandeur and all this visual spectacle means nothing. It doesn't add up to anything when I don't care about the characters, especially when you're supposed to have some sort of sympathy for the Four Horsemen. And we got another great Quicksilver scene following up from Days of Future Past, and he has a much more expanded role in this movie. But at the same time, he doesn't really, like we keep on mentioning, the characters just aren't there. We don't understand what his involvement in the movie is other than his relationship with Magneto. But then the movie doesn't even explore that. It seems like everything with this movie is just coming back to disappointment. You've got so many great elements. They've got some great actors, great characters, great visual, great direct. Bryan Singer knows what he's doing, but it's just when the writing isn't there and when the characters aren't there, it just doesn't really add up to anything. And it's worrying for the future of the franchise, because all these characters that were in this movie, you'd expect them to be in the next one. And if they're struggling to balance them now, I can't see how that's going to change in the next movie, because other than Apocalypse, the villain, I think literally every single character would probably appear in the next one. I don't see why they wouldn't. You've got lots of the young, you've got the young Jean Grey, young Cyclops, young Nightcrawler, then you've got all the Professor X and Magneto, and Mystique. You'd expect them all to be back.
There's a lot of speculation that the next X-Men film, like group X-Men film in the franchise, will be the Phoenix Saga.
And they've set it up really well in this movie.
But I think they really shoved it down our throats.
Well,
it was very forced.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's a seminal part of the Jean Grey character, so it's kind of hard to ignore.
Yeah, but then like...
I really don't like her character. I didn't like her in like the earlier X-Men.
Yeah.
I didn't like her there. I don't like her now.
She's a difficult character to kind of digest, I think, because...
And portray as well.
Sophie Turner did an okay job. I'm not as down on her as you guys. But it's a weird character because we're led to believe that she's one of the most powerful mutants alive, but I just never felt that you never see anything that makes you go, wow, she's on par with Professor X, basically.
But I do think that with the actors they have now, they've got a really good runway up for the next the future films.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're gonna improve. Definitely.
They just need to make it more focused and not try and shoehorn so many different characters in.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe. These guys are great. I'm their biggest fan. I like every single video. Next week they're going to be reviewing
The Nice
Guys.
That should be a lot of fun.
And comment if you want me to see me again. Thanks guys. Have me on again.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Sure.
I'm just gonna kick you out and have be like the film.
The Steph show.
The
Steph show.
See you guys next week.
Bye.